Welcome into the SorareData Strategy Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare, joined once again, as usual, by Sean Newsham, PSU Fans 2. Sean, welcome back. You took a week off, and you said you had an exciting pump of the week this week.
Yeah, well, that's not really an exciting one. It's more so just I feel like we've probably talked about it before. That's a later in the show
Yeah.
type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I just it's someone I just don't understand their price and why it is where it is because like I mean his comparable player is like Robert Lewandowski and he's not what Robert Lewandowski costs. So I just don't understand why he is at his current price for a lot of different reasons.
I think you would even argue he's better than Robert Lewandowski.
I mean, there's lots of people I would argue are better than Lewandowski. You know I hate Lewandowski.
Fair enough. We'll get to that in a little bit because we're not just a show, a pumping show. We have serious things to talk about this week. But one of the things that I thought or really the topic today was about this Underdog 250 Special Weekly that we are. I feel like you and I looked at this contest a lot differently than a lot of people, particularly because of our DFS background. Like it felt a lot more like a DFS contest in terms of what people were actually, or what people should have been considering. I don't know if they actually did, but when you and I looked at it, and this isn't to say that our strategy for this special weekly is going to be the same as the next four. We actually were talking about how it's going to be very different, but we noticed that basically the special weeklies that include limited cards effectively allow a lot of people to play whoever they want. And so they're like, all right, let me figure out what that means in terms of the lineups that are building. And it was kind of funny to see the people who were like, I know exactly who I should play. And the build is basically like, oh, I'm building an optimal lineup for this week. And the DFS part of me was like, oh, there's tons of people who are going to just build like the chalkiest lineup they can because they think that's the best lineup. And there was a lot more that I think should have gone into the decision making in terms of like how you win a contest like this that a lot of people were ignoring. And your DFS background is significantly better than mine. And so I feel like it was a perfect opportunity for you to kind of explain to people the types of lineups that they think that they're building to win that probably won't win this week.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess first part of it is like let's just talk about overall the weekly special and how it was done. So first of all, they need to fix D2. You and I have talked about like the fact that you're winning cards in a division way better than D2 is an issue. D2 has to be fixed. That's first off. We'll drop it after that. I think everyone is aware of that at this point and is cognizant of that. So next, the weekly special is awesome. This is such a great idea because I've seen so many people, and the dogs are excited about
dogs
it.
Dogs are very excited.
Apparently, we're hoping for no vomit today, but apparently they're pretty pumped. The FedEx guy just drove by. So it's an awesome idea because look, they have tons of uniques they can realistically give away, and it's not a big deal to them. And people are excited about it. Like I've seen, I mean, we're in a lot of chats, we're in some together, some we're not in together, but I've seen a lot of people talk about it that that are excited. The thing is realistically speaking, this one you shouldn't be excited about. It's pretty, you're not going to win. Most likely you're not going to win because you realistically need to finish in the top 3 out of what, 11,000. Let's pretend that half of those are valid. So you need to come top 3 out of like 5,000 people for it to really be worthwhile. And it's just not super conducive to like, you're not going to win. But awesome, because you can make contests like this where you're not going to win and people aren't going to win, but people get excited about it. So like in reality, and I'm going to contradict myself later when we go over like my lineup because I did buy a player for it, but like well, it was more so like I don't think I'm going to lose anything off him, so why not just buy him and plug him in and then I can resell him later. But I think that like people should not have put priority players in this. Like if you are putting priority players in this and you don't have priority players used elsewhere, that's a mistake. If you have excess, which is why I bought a player, because I had excess of other cards, that it made just sense for me to buy up one player to make my lineup as good as possible. But if you don't have like a plethora of elite level cards, then using them here is just not really something that makes sense. Also, like you talked about, I think people were going about this whole tournament wrong. If your guy doesn't have a chance to hit like a goalie, I will remove. We talked about goalie in the one chat I was in, and I think you need to hit like 70 with your goalie. Obviously, the higher upside is better with goalie, but like if you're playing guys that are not going to be able to hit 100, you just shouldn't be in your lineup, because I think to win or get up near a podium here, you're going to need like 100 out of your captain or close. Like you're going to need a massive score out of your captain, and you're going to need like everyone's going to need to average like 80. So like I think you're going to need like 450 plus points to like be in legitimate contention for this. So like if you're playing, like I'll give examples. People like some of the people here, like Lautaro Martinez, can he really get to 100 points? I don't think so, because he just has no all-around game. So like if he gets a brace, he's probably going to get you like 85 or so, which that might play, but anything below that's just not going to cut it. Right. Like I see a lot of people play at Heredity, and I think that actually makes sense. And people don't understand that. So like if Heredity doesn't give up a goal against Bayern, he's going to get like 80 to 90 points. So he has a lot of upside in what he can produce compared to that of some of these other people. So like there's just people that I just don't think can get up to what they need to get up to get a reward. And like I said, like you're playing for 3 cards. So if you're not going to get top 3, it doesn't matter. So I took a risk, which we'll talk about when we look at lineups. I played who's 100% the best defender if he plays. It's just a matter if he plays or not. If he doesn't play, I don't really care, because I'm playing to like top 3 this, or it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think it was a great idea because it had people really excited about it, which is you want people to be excited about something that's really overall not good. And that's what this weekly special was. But that's awesome. Like, that's great. Like, and even like I bought a player just to make sure my lineup was as good as possible. Now, in future weeks, when you can only use uniques and rares and super rares, those weeks I'm going to be way more interested in the special, because they're a lot more attainable and hitting it is a lot more likely. So like this week, I think prioritizing it would have been like, and I've been prioritizing my weekly special to a good degree recently, because they've been pretty decent. I've won decent cards with it. But like this week, in terms of priority level, it was probably like bottom quarter of my lineups that I would have created. I also knew it was there though. So like I might have like picked someone here and like left someone here so that I could use them in the special as well. So like it was a non-priority versus a priority. What's your thoughts on it? How did you approach it?
So I went back to like last week, and I like really prioritized the special weekly and just got royally screwed by a COVID absence. But this week, so the reason why I wanted to bring up the whole DFS thing, and like a lot of our audience here is not in the US, although I guess DraftKings is available in the UK and Germany and a few countries there, but it's obviously bigger in the US. You and I are used to contests that look like this, and it's significantly top heavy when you like really think about it. So we're talking now, there are 11,000-ish entries in. Let me see, 11,208. 3 people are going to win a unique. 12 people are going to win a tier 2 super rare.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're winning either a tier 3 super rare, a tier 3 rare, or a tier 3 limited.
AK, you don't care.
I think some people care about the tier 3 super rare. I don't think they should, but I think they do.
Let's clarify that too, because like I'll say we don't care, but like I'll take any card over nothing.
Yes.
If I can sell a card for 0.02 ETH, that is much better than getting nothing.
Right.
But like I'm not like super excited watching what's happening to see like if I'm going to hit that 0.02 card.
Right. So if you remove the tier 3 limiteds and the tier 3 rares, the top 50 people win prizes this week. And for 11,000 entries with no threshold possibility, it seems like a bit of a long shot. So like prioritizing these is obviously you're putting in a lineup that says, I'm going to outscore 11,205 other lineups so I can win one of these uniques. And like I talk about how like just taking like number of entries divided by number of rewards and like figuring out the probability of winning is like dumb. But like that's what you have to do in this specific case because it's so top heavy. And I think the way that a lot of people were building lineups was just who do I think, which 5 players have the best matchups that can get me the most points? And that's like one little step in how many steps you need to go through in order to figure out how to win this contest. And I don't think enough people, and apologies to Josh Forth who brought this up, like, why are we talking about this today and not yesterday? But I don't think enough people talked about playing guys that are not being played by other people. And so I see like, and I'm guilty of this myself, but I also didn't necessarily prioritize the special weekly. Like I wanted to have a lineup that like could get a card, but like I wasn't going to kill other lineups to do it. And I'm perfectly capable of killing lineups other ways. I don't have to kill them by taking guys out and putting them in the weekly. But like looking at the screen here, and for those of you who are listening, this is just the impact players from the Gameweek Center on SorareData. Like Noah Lang's the most popular player, and like everyone was talking about Noah Lang this week because he's been terrible lately. They have a great matchup this week, but like he's the most popular player. Sebastian Coates, another great matchup, and like he's second. And like if you have those two and they go off, you still need the other 3 to go off. And so if you have other 3 players from, this list here, they all have to be perfect. And you have to hope that not everybody, somebody else doesn't have the lineup because it's possible they do. And with no power adjustments, the XP doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's like my thought process with my lineup was that I am pretty confident if my defender plays, he'll rip like a 90 or 100. Like the guy that I said,
Yep.
no, and nobody played him. Like you can probably find out, which we'll do once we go through our lineups, and you know who it is, and see like how much they're played. But yeah, my thought process was like people generally will be like, oh, I have to go so contrarian in every spot. You don't.
No.
You just have to be different in 1 or 2 spots and have no one really play that person, and then have those other guys smash. So like Noah Lang is the card I bought. I bought a Noah Lang limited. I was just going to play my rare, but it's too good of a matchup for me to waste my rare there. So I was just like, I'll buy it and maybe I'll lose like 10%. So like I think I paid like 0.2. And if I want to go sell him right now, I can sell him for like 0.17. But he's probably going to score this weekend. He'll probably go back up over the 0.2 I paid. So like I'll basically break even on what I paid for him. But like so Lang captain is not the differential techers. That's literally not a definition of a differential here. But like to me, Lang was clear far and away the best forward. So I just was like, all right, I'm gonna take what I think is the best forward. And then I did play Eduardo, but that's more just because like I didn't have other stuff I really wanted to play. And I actually did not play Milinkovic Savic because I didn't want to go too chalky. Mm-hmm. And I think my goalie, I didn't have a great goalie. I didn't really have a goalie that I thought was a fantastic option. So the goalie I picked, I think, is going to cap out at like 65 to 70. So, but he has a really high chance of hitting 65 to 70. Whereas, like, I thought that if I played Milinkovic Savic and I lacked upside in goalie, I might be capping myself a little bit more. So I played someone else at midfield that also isn't super different. But yeah, the thing is, like, so realistically speaking, every goalie is going to be a differential here.
Sure.
Because you're going to probably need, like, you're going to need a clean sheet. You're going to need well over 60 points probably, or at least in that range. So, like, any goalie's a outlier. So, like, even, like, you look here, who's the most owned goalie? Most owned goalie is, like, Mulder. So, like, Mulder's, like, owned by 150 of 11,000 people. So, like, you're differentiating a goalie. So I wasn't really worried about that. The thing is, like, you really are going to need to differentiate at least at some of the other spots. So I felt like going super down the middle chalk was not good. And I thought that my 2 guys that I played that I think are big differentials they make a lot of sense of it if they play.
Yeah. Stephen Curtis brought this up. He's like, it's just a classic GPP strategy of going into this. So, a big field tournament, basically. I mean, it's a definition of it. 11,000 entries is pretty big for Sorare. I assume it's like the 3rd biggest one of the week behind the 2 All-Stars.
Second, I think.
Well,
are you kind of common? Oh, you're kind of limited.
Right. Well, you can
Yeah,
use limited. So like,
I don't count limited. But
but you
yes,
have to
you're right.
because
You're right.
you bought a limited to play this.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I
So
think that I'm also getting more into trading and flipping cards, Laird. I know it's exciting.
limited. Yeah.
I was on my vacation and I knew Earl Edwards was starting. I bought like 4 of them, and I'm sitting there at my work dinner, just like frantically trying to sell the Earl Edwardses that I bought. It didn't work as well as I thought it was going to,
Yeah.
but our buddy Fear My Turtle bought one for like 0.028 and flipped a limited for like 0.057. He sold like the top of what it got to. I did not sell it for that top.
FMT just social.
That John, that was a good playing. What's his name? I forget his Deech or whatever his name is.
So
That
John
is a contrarian play that was a good play, because if Bruges does not score, you're taking, because all right. So here's another thing too is certain people
for those of you, hold on, for those listening, John was saying you should play the keeper against Noah Lang, knowing that Noah Lang was going to be the most popular player.
And part of the thought process behind that too is not that Noah Lang's the most popular player, which he is. It's that people that are playing Noah Lang here are going to have the best lineups because they generally have the best galleries that can therefore afford Noah Lang to go in this lineup.
Lang's not a cheap guy that anybody's.
Yeah, so like if you play the goalie against Bruges and they hold a clean sheet, you're wiping out effectively 200 of most likely the best possible lineups in the tournament, which is huge when you come to think of it. So
that's like a goalie smash spot too.
I consider, like if he doesn't concede, he's probably going to get 80, 90. He's similar to like what Hradecki is going to get.
Yeah. And
he's going to shut out Noah Lang too. And Noah Lang's going to have like 50 or 60 points and not be good enough most likely. So 100% that is the type of play that you would want to make. I considered it. My decision was if I wasn't going to play Noah Lang, I was going to go buy his limited, that goalie's limited, because it is just a smash spot. And Bruges has struggled to score. So it's realistic to think that they might not score. So I did consider that. Now, that is a very good way to approach how you thought about this.
Yeah, I like that a lot, John. Well done. Coutinho saying I couldn't face using good rares when people can just use the same in limited. Like I get that. I can't imagine people were buying limiteds. Buying rares to get into the.
No, not at all. Like I think I played 4 rares. We'll see when I get to line. So I'm pretty sure I played 4 rares.
Yeah. I think the only benefit is if you played rares of players that don't have limiteds.
That's fair. Like Onana, but we talked about Onana. So like someone was talking, I think it was Axa that talked about playing Onana the other day, but I said, I'm like, Onana's probably like one of the worst goalies you can play because his upside is like 62.
It's nothing, yeah.
And like, I'm not saying you don't want 62, but in this contest where you're going for top 3, I don't know if 62 will cut it. I'm not thrilled with my goalie choice that I made. And thought that it wasn't great either. But I just didn't have a goalie that I loved, and I wasn't going to go buy a goalie. I wasn't going to go play for any goalie. So I'm like, whatever. If he gets 70, I'm hopeful that my super outlier defender can just rip 100 and offset that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I specifically didn't think about goalie.
Yeah, I think it's literally the only goalies you could not play was like Onana because his upside is 0. It's like it's 60. He's going to get you 60 and that's it. And like realistically, the only goalie I think you like could not really play was like Onana.
You want to talk about your lineup?
Sure. We can talk about mine. We're not talking about yours first. We can talk about whichever one you want.
Yeah, let's go to yours.
So we talked about some of the players that I played. So I think Noah Lang was the clear-cut top forward. I think that there was no forward that was as good as him, so I decided I just wanted to play him. And then Costa, he's got a really great shot at getting a clean sheet. And I looked through, he doesn't really lose the ball out of the back. So if they get a couple shots on him, he can get to like 70, but I wasn't thrilled by playing him there. And then Eduardo, it's a great matchup for him, and he obviously ripped close to 100 this past week. So like his upside is there to rip 100. So the 2 guys that I played that I think are going to be differentials is Schurz. I think he starts on the weekend based on the cup yesterday and everything. And against Warwick, if he starts, he should have like 80-point floors. Like it's just he's gonna just rake in stats,
Yep.
and no one's gonna play him. Can you check to see how many people played him? Because I think that the numbers were going to be really low. And then midfielder, I just didn't love. I will say I don't think any midfielder was a slam dunk play. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So like I was looking at midfielders and I just didn't see tons of options that made sense at midfielders. And again, the matchup IX has against Walwick is really, really, really favorable. And if Gravenberch starts and he plays, let's say he plays like his 80 minutes or he gets his game in, if he gets a decisive, which the entire game is going to be played at the edge of the Walwick box, the entire game, he's going to have like 60 to 65 points just from an all-around game. So like you're basically saying like if Gravenberch were to score or get an assist, which is probably like a 25% chance, he's probably going to end up around 85 to 90 points at least. So
Has
I
he ever
basically
scored
looked
90?
at what's up.
Has he ever scored 90?
I would assume he just the way he plays is just he just doesn't get decisive that often is
Right.
the issue with him. So if you're looking strictly from like is he going to get there that often? No, but like if you look back through his log, so like you got to click on the all section, but like he has like 94, 93, 93, 93, 93s. And like if you look at what he did against Walwick earlier in the year, he actually didn't have a great all around that game. He had like he ended up with 50 points with no decisives. The game before that, he ended up with like 52 with no decisives. Game before that, he didn't play. But like if you look at the games against Walwick, so like last game was like 5-0 against them. That was their game earlier this year. Then 1-0 last year. But in those games, we're talking like Edson Alvarez had 66, Berghuis had 90, Tadic had 76. All the defenders had 100. Like the game earlier this year, Blind had 100, Lysandre had 100 without a decisive, Timber had 100 without a decisive. And then like we're talking about like, so I just for me it was someone that if he gets a decisive, I'm likely up near 80 to 90 points, which is really the goal that I'm going for.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense.
And if sure, like if Schurz and Gravenberch don't play, whatever. I don't care about winning a tier 3 limited. I just that doesn't matter to me. And so like I think like Lang has a really good shot to get 90 points. I think Lang has a great shot to get 90 points.
Well, everybody thinks that.
Yeah, everyone thinks that. Yeah, so like Josh just said, like Walwick, the entire game will be played at the edge of the Walwick box. So hypothetically speaking, if you have 75 minutes where you're literally playing the entire game at their box, the odds of you getting an assist at some point or a goal is probably 25%. So like this recently, like Gravenberch had 2 games where he had a decisive in January. I guess one was in December, but like he doesn't have tons of decisives on the year. But like when he gets a decisive, he's usually in the upper 70 points. And the game against he had a game against Feyenoord earlier this year. We had 60. And I would have loved to have played a different guy at midfield. I just didn't see someone that was a slam dunk. Who I maybe should have played was Pozuelo, but I really thought I needed to be different at midfielder because there wasn't a slam dunk midfielder. So if there's not a slam dunk, I don't want to go follow what everyone else was doing.
There were 46 Schurz cards.
Okay, so a significant amount less than that of these other people.
For sure.
Yeah. And Gravenberch, I would assume maybe is lower than that, honestly. So realistically speaking, my thought process, and I captain Schurz because I think if Schurz plays, he has a really good shot at 100, better shot than anyone else. So like if Schurz rips 100, I would probably need to average like 75 on my other 4 guys, which is definitely possible.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
But I mean, I'm not super expecting anything out of this. What was your lineup? What did you end up going with?
Just before that, we get into that. Were any of these guys possibilities for your other lineups? And you were just like, oh, I'm just going to play them in the weekly. I mean, obviously they're very good cards, so it's not.
Yeah, so I was not going to play Gravenberch. I was not going to play Schurz. They're just not worth the risk for me in terms of like play them. I obviously wouldn't have had no Lang. Eduardo would have gotten a lineup somewhere, and Diego Costa would have gotten a lineup somewhere. But so here's the thing, right? So U23 goalies and goalies in general, I care about D3. That's it. So like I had Bijlow in the same matchup. So and I had a good matchup so like D4, like I don't care if my U23 D4 lineup is worth a crap because I just don't care. So like I think I played like Van de Voort there, but like I could have played like Diego Costa there, but I just didn't care.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, this is, or I was gonna say there's 67
Okay.
draft times.
Yeah, and like the thing is, there's going to be people only have so many cards, so like they have to, and there's only I think so many cards that are reasonably good enough. Like we'll talk through your lineup here, but like I have issues I think with playing like Shabilko here, mainly because I just don't think his upside can get there. But so like you realistically, if you look at D mid, all those positions, there's only so many players you can realistically play that has upside. So if you're not playing those guys, you're really like kind of giving yourself not much chance anyways, compared to if you play guys that have a chance.
Yeah, so like I knew Lang and Coates were going to be popular, but like I think they were popular because everybody thinks they're going to do well, so it's fine. Like I was okay with that. Kostic is another one that like he's been struggling. I think he's going to be fine. So those three, I was like, I didn't necessarily like I was willing to like not play those two limiteds in lineups I usually play the limiteds for because they're limited lineups. Like I just don't prioritize them as much. So basically left me with the extra spot and goalie. And I think I showed you yesterday that I was considering playing Ivicic, who's Portland's goalie, and he's playing LAFC. And I was like, well, LAFC are favored. I have a Vela lineup. I actually have 3 LAFC players, and I was like, playing Ivicic here is kind of like a hedge if those guys like don't deliver. And I think goalie is so stupid that I wasn't willing to like hope that a huge Ivicic game like cancels out the 3 other lineups I have of LAFC. So I was just willing to not play him. Like Ivicic is in like a training lineup, and I was like, I don't want to have to like benefit from a huge Ivicic game in the weekly challenge to get me a tier 3 limited, because that's like the realistic outcome for it. So I had a Koye who's an underdog, but like he doesn't have like a horrible matchup, and it's enough where he can like make a few saves. Yeah, and then I played Shabilko, and I can't believe this Chicago Fire slander I'm hearing from you that he doesn't have any upside against Miami. Is that who they're playing? I don't even know who they're playing.
Yeah, no, they're playing Orlando. They're
Orlando.
decent,
That's right. Yeah.
they're a decent favorite. I actually like him this week. I think he's a good play in other contests. I just for him to get like 90, it's just difficult because he just isn't going to put out an all-around game for you.
No, it's the hat trick. That's all I need.
You do. You get a hat. I mean, I'm fine with that. It was unique and a super rare in lineup. So fine with me. I don't think I played as rare, but that's more just I might have actually played as rare too. I don't think I did though.
Yeah, so you got them all over. You need a 90 just as much as I do.
I'm fine with Shabilko having a 90. I'm more than happy to accept that.
But basically, like I was my considerations once I knew that I was going to play the 3 chalky guys. Kostic was a little chalkier than I thought he was going to be, but like I knew people would be looking at him. But like I knew tons of people would play Lang and Coates, and they're the 2 most popular. So I was like, I just need somebody that I think can bang in 2 goals, and not many people are going to play him. And I was like, I stopped looking at matchups after that. Like, frankly, I stopped looking at matchups at goalie too. Like, I actually was like, I'm not going to play like a heavily favored goalie because, like you said with Onana, like the save upside is not that high if it's a huge favorite. And like at that point, like I think the whoever wins the uniques, the 3 teams that win uniques, is going to be some absurdly random goalie who happens to save a penalty in a clean sheet. And like you just can't project that. Like it's impossible to project penalty saves. And so I was just like, who can I play? I threw in a Koye, and then it's just I went back to who do I have left? And frankly, this was like not one of the first lineups I made. So I'm in the SorareData lineup builder, and most of my lineups are built. So it's like, who do I have left? Who can score a lot of goals in a single game? And like, there's Shabilko just staring at me, and I'm like, fine, I'm just going with him. And frankly, like, not that I'm arguing my lineup with anybody, but like, I don't think you can make an argument in this type of contest that he's like a bad play, and that was good enough for me to play him.
I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, I do like Okoye. I actually considered, so I had Howen and Wittick. So I considered running the stack. The issue is like I don't think Howen had much upside, and Wittick I had use for elsewhere,
Yeah.
or at least I had consideration for elsewhere. And I was also worried, like I really think you're going to need to rip like if your goal is only a 65 to 70, you're going to need to rip like 80 to 90s out of every player.
Everywhere else, yeah.
And
you might
Wittick
need to do
does,
that anyway.
yeah, Wittick does have that in him because he put up like 85 last game against Sparta, but I had the super rare, so like it was super rare. So like I think I had other use for him that I decided I didn't want to do that. But 100%, like I think one of the best plays of the week was Upper Meccano. Obviously he was owned by people, but like it seems very likely he's going to play, and I think a lot of people will overlook him. I thought he was a good play. The fullbacks aren't really that reasonable, Josh, because the issue is they will still limit their upside unless they go absolutely nuclear. And even then, I think it's very difficult for like a Wittick to get there because he's going to lose so many possessions in general.
Stephen Curtis also brought up that I played 2 forwards, which is like another way to differentiate. Like that came out of like my own like DFS idea. Like I would never play more forwards than I have to on DraftKings.
No. I mean,
DraftKings
you're trying to play 0 forwards at all times.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
At least in cash games, which is what we usually optimal lineups
like,
you focus on.
See, I think the rest of your line makes sense. I just would not have played Shabilko, and I would have played someone else. I would have probably bought a Schurz if I was you and played Schurz.
Such hate on.
I like Shabilko. I just don't think. Josh. I know Wittick can get 100. I'll retract the statement. I think there's probably like 5 fullbacks you could play, maybe 10. But like realistically speaking, like you want to play like a center back that can get their one decisive and get a goal and win a header, and then they get their 100 points because they just churn out all around.
Yeah, I saw there was a decent number of Trents played for how few Trent cards there are.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I think that makes sense. Like, I don't even know if he plays this week because they have the Champions League game. I think he does because it's against West Ham and they're like close to the top.
Yeah.
They're close to the top of the table. So I do think they'll probably just play everything as normal this weekend. Yeah, Eduardo. I mean, give my boy Eduardo his free kick and just let him rip one in. I mean, Marcus Jr.'s out, so it definitely frees up. It honestly frees up PKs too. Although I think Anderson Lopez, if he's in, would take the PKs for them.
I went back and forth on Lopez this week. I wasn't sure whether to play it. Not in the weekly, obviously. It's the dude.
Yeah, I played him in my. He's just been difficult. I think he is. I think he's starting to establish himself. He started again last game. Sorare Japan hated on him again. I know we talked about it. No one hates anyone more than Sorare Japan hates Anderson Lopez. It's wild. His write-ups are just like Anderson Lopez has like 4 goals. He's like, Anderson Lopez scored 4 goals. They were all terrible. Like the ball hit off his face and went in, and like he just is awful. It's always funny to read because you just read the stuff and you'll just see the Anderson Lopez stuff and he just bashes him no matter what he does.
Terrible.
I had 3 lineups this weekend that I was excited about, but it's how many lineups of yours are you excited about this weekend?
Literally 0.
Literally 0.
No. I only say that because the list of suspended or injured or maybe injured players that I had that are like usually so important to my lineups was just like a killer. Like my depth was tested this week, and like I don't have like great depth in the places where I want it, and it's mostly because those are like the most expensive cards. Like having great U23 depth is tough. But yeah, like guys that I usually play are just out. And so I was just like it hurt to make lineups because I'm like looking at the lineup builder and it's like, look at these great matchups, but he's out. And I'm just like, oh man, like, so no.
Yeah, I was looking through and I had a lot of holes due to injuries, due to COVID, due to rotation risk, due to bad matchups. Like Black was talking to me yesterday about lineups, and I was like, normally my defenders are really strong. I usually have a lot of really good super rare defenders. So anyways, we were talking about lineups. I'm looking, I'm like, man, I don't even have one good super rare defender that I'm super confident in this week. It just was a dumpster fire of stuff this week. Like I just had a bunch of garbage because like I had so many people that were injured or rotated or COVID. Like I have the Walwick guys, which we've already discussed. Like they're not good this week. I'm definitely not playing them against Ajax. So it was a week where I usually have a few more lineups that I'm super excited about. Actually, shockingly, I'm really excited about my global D2 lineup. Because I really want to win global D2. Well, I can win like a card that's legit good. So I was pretty excited about the fact that I can run a really good lineup there that's really strong.
Oh yeah, because is there a star at the top there for this week?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I actually didn't check but there has been.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a fun lineup. Yeah, Josh, I think you and I have a few similar players that we couldn't believe were out this week.
I
But
didn't know Josh had someone not on Ajax. I thought he only had guys on Ajax.
he has Ajax in half the Russian Premier League, but
Yeah.
let's not go down that road today.
Yeah, well, I'm like really excited about this lineup because like Van Kronbridge is fine. Like it's a really good matchup for him, obviously. Fukumori he's always like the question mark because he is like the ultimate boom or bust guy.
Yeah, he really is.
Because if he has a good matchup, which this is a pretty good matchup, like
Yep.
he can just rip 100 easy. And then obviously like Gil, like that's my team is the best suited in the summer when the MLS is playing because and Asia because I have some elite level super rares in those areas that I don't have elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat in terms of like getting that Gill, but I guess yeah, four of these five guys are summertime.
Yeah, why don't
Suzuki
we
just
talk
came
about
over.
so like we talked the other week, I think last time I was on, we talked about you making improvements for your D3 team in the summer. So like what have you done to do that over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I'm not sure I actually improved. I think I just got different, and like that's the difficulty that I'm having with my teams. But yeah, I'm in this weird spot where I have too many super rares to just play rare pro, but not enough super rares to play super rare. And so I keep getting in this weird spot where it's like, do I sell some to like make, like, I have like, I don't have great super rares when it comes down to it. So I have very good rares and like a few okay super rares, except Rusnak, who is obviously the best player in the game. But like other than that, I just have like guys that fill in. And so I started this idea of like, let me get some more super rares so I can like play more in the summer. But what it comes down to is with my gallery, I'm really only, not that I only need four super rares, but like I'm realistically only playing All Star, Rare Pro, and America Rare Pro in the summer. Like I have some European super rares that help at some point, but like, so it's like, and anything I buy now, like, because everything's happening now, I'm going to have extras. And like, I just don't feel like I have a gallery that justifies having extra super rares.
Having extra super rares is never a bad thing because you can always like move up to some extent or have options. Like having options is always a plus.
Right. And I get that. But it's like frustrating for like my types of lineups that like, I feel like my budget's not big enough to justify extra super rares, even though like it makes sense to have them. So like basically this all-star rare pro lineup that I have up on the screen is like the best I can put out right now. And I'm just not sure it's like really good enough right now. Like Adon, so for those listening, I have an Adon rare. Thank you again to John Nellis for that one. A Jonathan Mensah super rare, Albert Rusnak super rare, and then Carlos Heel and Carlos Vela. And like I think that's really competitive in the summer. I bought an Eloy Room rare to pair like Room and Mensah together, but I have this, and then you can like kind of see I have a super rare team in this week, but like it's five guys that play. like but like these are basically super rares that I wouldn't be using this week. I just happen to have the right positions to get them in. And it just feels like depth in places I don't need depth.
Yeah, sometimes they'll pay off. I mean, you did buy someone who you bashed when I talked them up the other week, but that we'll talk. You can talk about that after.
Yeah, I just got to scroll down to get him too.
Yeah, but like he was a really good buy. I think. I think the thing that you and I talk about, right, is that like realistically speaking, in the summer, realistically speaking, now, not really anyone is better than Gil or Vela. Like those guys
In
are
America.
elite, and then like realistically speaking, like right now, Adon is as good, if not better than. Did you have what was the super defender you had from Bruges? Or did I not
No,
do that?
yeah,
Oh,
that's a throwaway lineup.
Bovado. Yeah,
That's
if he
nothing.
plays. Oh, hey, my board, Joris von Overeem. I like that.
It's another one I bought from you and benched
It is.
immediately.
Yeah, like your Champ America is a really good lineup as well. I think Acosta has sets. Has he been good? I haven't seen what he did last week.
Yeah, he and Vela split, and
Okay.
Cifuentes took one, and I have Cifuentes also. Like their matchup like is okay this week. They're like pretty decently favored, so I actually considered playing all of them. The weird thing is that I have is that like playing Gil and Vela separately feels like a waste.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
so like stacking LAFC now like doesn't make sense to me.
No, realistically speaking, and you and I talked about it, and I think you did address it to some extent. You did to some extent. It could be better, but your team, realistically speaking, for now, and this could be totally wrong or totally like wrong or right, is Rusnak in the summer is elite. As of now, he could end up being terrible or could end up being like the best midfielder on the platform, right? We don't know where. Well, he's probably not going to be like Gil, but realistically speaking,
It would be
Rusnak.
awesome if he was better than Gil. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it would be for you. Yeah, definitely. Um, but like realistically speaking, as of now, he's elite, right? Gil, no one's better than. Literally, no one at all is better than Gil. He's the best midfielder on the platform, period, realistically speaking. Um, and then, realistically speaking, if Vela is back to normal, nobody is better than Vela um, on the platform. Like, realistically, like you're talking like Cecina level type player. So, like, he's really good. So, the issue with your team is that not having an elite level defender is just kind of pissing away equity for you because that team is in the summer, especially, no one's better than that team. Like you can say, like, oh, my lineup's really good, my lineup's really good, someone else's lineup's really good, but like there's not a lineup that's clear cut, like my lineup is better than that lineup. So
Mm-hmm.
I think not having a elite level super rare defender for you might be something that will be costly. Now, like you said, you did bring in Mensa. I do think that helps because, like, let's say Columbus plays Charlotte, right?
Right.
Well, that's a really great matchup, and you can play both of those guys, and that's fantastic. Um, I know someone that you were trying to get, which we won't mention. You might have mentioned him. I don't know. My dogs are barking. But the person that we know you were trying to get would be really good for you. Would make a lot of sense within your gallery for the same reasons. And then there's other guys you can get. Like, for example, like let's say Metnair and those guys come back and DeBossi moves back and they play Charlotte, right? All of a sudden, DeBossi's a really good matchup. So I think for you having a plethora of super rare defenders would be really good so that you can pick and choose matchups because that's where things are going to that's your best chance to have a really high end reward is in the
Yep.
summer months in America. And not even just the summer months, like whenever the MLS is
Right.
playing,
Whenever it's playing. Yeah.
that's like you're going to compete in global this week. Like every week that you have these elite players, you can compete in global all-star D3. And that's the thing. Like so you played Vela like in D3, I'm just trying to think of what I ran D3. So you ran Gil, I ran Gil, and we both captained him. So that's a wash. You played Vela, I played Cecina. So like effectively speaking, we can call that a wash, right? I played a Hans Vonneken super rare. You played a Rusnak super rare. So like effectively, we can call that a wash. I played Lars Unnerstall. You played Adon. Maybe that's a slight edge to you. And then I played Eduardo super rare. You played Mensa super rare, which, like, let's say is a decent sized edge to me.
Right.
So, but like when we're saying decent sized edge, we're talking like Eduardo's probably 10 points better than Mensa. Adon's maybe a point or two better than Unnerstall. It's not something that's like wildly different. In
I mean,
how
if you want to finish first and I finish second, I'm cool.
100%. I'll sign up for that all summer. Every week for the rest of every week for the rest of this platform being in existence, and we'll both be happy with that.
Yep.
But that's what I'm saying. Like everyone, as long as you run like what is legitimately a better lineup, like I look hypothetically, like right, like we just talked about your all-star D2 lineup. My lineup is better than your D2 lineup. There's not a question with that. But your lineup can still get a card. Like maybe all of a sudden you can get a card, and then hey, maybe you get a tier 3 super rare that's viable at some point. Like it's possible. Like I won Clinton Mata as a tier 3 super rare at some point. He's playing Sorare this week. I didn't actually use him, but like he's playing Sorare this week. That's a really good matchup. Like you could plug that in and be like, hey, that's no really worse than anything that anyone else can run. So the key is really just having lineups that are as good, if not better, than what everyone else can run. Like even like your America D3 lineup, I would argue is as good as anyone. Like no one can run a lineup that is like light years better than your America D3 lineup. Because the only spot that I think is a true hole is Acosta. But like realistically speaking, if he's splitting sets with Vela, he could realistically be like Atuesta, right?
That's the hope.
To some extent. Like I don't think he's as active is the problem.
Yeah, I mean he's just we have no track record of seeing what he is. So.
Yeah, we just don't know what he's
I think Atuesta is the ideal upside outcome.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's like the spot he's in on the team, I assume, right? Like that's where he's playing. So like, if he becomes, hypothetically speaking, let's say Kellen Acosta becomes a 60 average player, that's like a 2.5 ETH card, and that's as good as anyone can run all summer. And then the issue for you is that then you have like Vela, Rusnak, or no, I'm sorry, you have Gil, Rusnak super rare, Acosta super rare. So like in a D3 lineup, you can't run all of them. So you realistically need a defender or a forward super rare that could be really good to really give you something to differentiate between what other people are running.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's what it comes down to. It's just like ultimately I just feel like getting from like the Mensa range of super rare defender to like the Eduardo. Like let's just like think of it that way. The cost range is so big, and what it really comes down to is that like these extra super rares I have, I really should just sell them all. The problem is that they're like there's not a market for them.
I disagree. You want to have these players like Pedro Santos plays Charlotte or something. Like he's an elite level super. So like having guys like that is important in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's one of those things that, not that I want to have like an extremely streamlined gallery, but depth with expensive players, and it's not even expensive players, just expensive cards. Like that's always just, tougher for some people to swallow. That's all.
Well, I think, from your perspective, what do you pay for Santos? Like 0.3?
Yeah, somewhere around.
So you're talking like, all right, Santos and Acosta are 0.7. And then like let's throw in Mensa, who you probably play like 0.44.
I paid less than that, 0.35, I think.
So like you're talking
like I got a while ago for like 0.25 though.
So well, you're right. Like right now, I think he's probably worth like 0.45, 0.5, whatever. So you're talking like those three guys are worth 1 ETH. Can you really turn those three guys, what they can provide for you at 1 ETH, into something better for 1 ETH? I don't think you can.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, like I don't think you can go like hypothetically, like if you went and bought that card that you wanted to get, but we won't talk about, that card probably would cost about what those three cards would get. Is he really going to be better for you than those three cards?
You're right.
I don't think it's even close to it's a no. But like having that card would also be great for you as well. So it's a situation where you just got to grow and work within what your means are at that time.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is tricky for sure.
Always. So next week we have, or the next midweek, we have the limited, what do they call it? Limited underdogs, I guess, for the special weekly.
I think I don't care about that one at all because like you can't win anything. I don't care if you can't win anything worthwhile.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
It's
like you're not going to compete for a star limit.
Yeah, so rewards next in this midweek are 500 limited cards, but 480 of them are tier 2 or below. So like, I don't care at all.
For this game week, yeah.
Yeah, for this game week. Now, next week, I'm interested.
Next weekend.
Next weekend.
Yeah.
I will take next weekend seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not going to be very many people involved with that.
I mean, you can, like, currently, you cannot use any of your cards to win those types of cards. Like, you cannot use your current super rares and uniques to win uniques.
Correct. Yeah, it's not possible. So, like, I can use these guys next week. So, like, I do not know who I will have available. But, like, so hypothetically speaking, that might be my highest priority lineup next week. I don't know yet because it's going to depend who I have. Like, and we don't know who's going to be eligible for that yet because we can't build lineups for it and we haven't seen what people are going to do this weekend. And like realistically speaking, an average of 50, like one game, like if you put up like 90, it's going to be very difficult to be able to be used in that. So I have to wait and see. But I will say, as of right now, there's a really strong likelihood that I take that lineup super duper seriously next week.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I would assume that most people that play with super rares and uniques will do that, right?
It depends. It depends what people have. So like right now, so this is a hypothetical speaking, right? Right now, the Philly, I have like a Philly stack with like super rares and uniques, right? Andre Blake's L40 is 48. There's L5. His L5's 53. Glesnes is like 55, and Jake Elliott's is like 42. So, like, hypothetically speaking, they could end up being below the 50s. And if they're like below the 50s, all of a sudden I get a really good stack. That's a great start. Similarly, like, I mean,
you need them to get blasted this week.
Yeah, you need them to get blasted. If they get blasted this week, it's beneficial. So, like, I don't have a Noah Lang super rare, right? But like if I had a Noah Lang super rare and they played Sarang this week, and then like next week they played like Beer Shot, I'd be like, all right, just I would probably use Noah Lang here. Like I would consider using Noah Lang in this lineup next week, instead of like in a D3 U23 lineup or something like that. So
yeah.
Realistically speaking, like I think there's a real high likelihood that I will prioritize that lineup more than anything else. Like I don't even know who like I have available that would make sense.
That max average score is a real interesting wrinkle in this.
I wish it was a little lower. I wish it was 45.
I do wonder why they raised it.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, I actually know exactly why they raised it, because so few of the uniques that they sell have they sell L5s when players are hot. So
but the thing is like you can play super rares there too. Like I'm sure I have. I'm gonna go look through my super rares right now and let's see who I have that is a option for next week from a super rare perspective. So I think you're gonna need big scores again. So you realistically are gonna need someone. So for example, if Brendan Aronson does not score tomorrow, or like maybe he doesn't play, and he is terrible against Bayern, which is obviously likely.
No, that match won't matter.
Oh, you're right. The Bayern. So, like, if he doesn't score this weekend, I guess that he doesn't play. They don't play. Oh, they start the playoffs. So, like, his matchup just isn't set up. So, like, I have a Brozovic. Brozovic right now is at 52. So Brozovic sucks they play today. Like Brozovic had like a 40 today. I would consider using like a Brozovic super rare there. I have a Mike Trezor. I think that if he doesn't start this weekend, his like last good game will move out and he'll be like an L40 or an L50. Let's see, who else do I have? I have a Kosi Tanny, so I have a goalie. Frank Kessie, great example.
Ooh.
So Frank Kessie right now is at 41. They play a tough match against Napoli this week, and it's gonna be difficult for him to get above L50. And their next game is against Empoli, which is a really good, solid matchup. So like last time against Empoli, he had 85.5. So like
that's a good shout. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I might play Frank Kessie in that matchup. Like
yeah, basically whatever happens against this week I mean,
Yep.
whatever happens this weekend, like the L5s will be for next weekend.
Correct. Pedro Gonzalez is out. If he comes back, he's below 50. So like hypothetically, like I would use Pedro Gonzalez. Masato Morishige had COVID at the beginning of the season. He right now is below 50. And he last year was really good for Tokyo. So like let's see what his matchup is. So his matchup is against next week. They play Sanfrecce. So that's a reasonably good matchup. So there could be some people I have. Do you have people that are standing out to you within your gallery?
I mean, I can't even enter.
You don't have enough guys that can enter?
I don't have a goalie, a super rare goalie. So I'm glad you brought that up though. So John Morris asked, do you view Gameweek 252, which is next weekend, as the better opportunity to play SO5 or to put middling super rares on the secondary market while others chase the special weekly?
I don't think people are going to buy middling super rares. They're going to buy elite level super rares that are below 50. I think.
I like the way you put that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like people aren't going to like, I can, let me find one here.
Like the limited market, I think it was somebody mentioned it today. Oh, Chani said it today. That he was like, you might be able to find some deals on limiteds today from people who like, degened you who bought a Noah Lang limited and they're just like, oh, I don't really need these cards, and people are willing to sell them. Like you might be able to get better prices on the limiteds that were obviously pushed up of people buying them going into this special weekly. Although the next one, 151 is limited only. So maybe it won't be quite as drastic, but I don't think you're going to find as many people like buying super rares to enter the special weekly, even though the prizes are so good. Like, I'm guessing that the number of people who could enter the special weekly if it was today is not going to be much different than the number that actually enter next weekend.
Correct.
Like I'm not buying a super rare goalie to enter this next weekend.
I think that we're going to see the amount of people that play next weekend is not going to be significant.
Right. Which is makes the strategy of lineup building significantly different than what we came for this weekend.
Correct. And like you and I, like my gallery's big. Like I have a big gallery, and I am going to struggle to put out a lineup that makes sense next week. It's just like that's just how, as of now. Like I mean, maybe I'll have more people that open up. But like yes, like right now, like I have like Lawless Abubakar and Jack Price, right? Both are below 50 right now, although I don't think they will stay there if they have a good game. But like so next, their matchup's terrible though. They play Sporting KC, so like it's not a good example. But like the weekend after they played Houston. Imagine if they played Houston and I could use both of those. That's awesome. Like I would totally consider doing that. But yeah, like I don't think people are going to go out there and buy super rares to play this. Yeah, I mean, looking through my super rares, I do not have an elite list of super rares that I can play next week. Actually, here's one. If he doesn't start this weekend, Leandro DeMeo is below 50. So like that could be a really strong super rare option for next weekend. But I'm looking through my team. I don't have tons of like guys that I would consider elite.
Well, theoretically with the L5, you don't need elite. It is kind of funny though, because it's not like everybody looked at the max average score as like, oh, okay, so now we're giving like real value to tier 3, maybe tier 2 type players, but it's not. It's just accentuating star and tier 1 players who have either been hurt or happen to have 3 bad games that brought it below. Like the goal is not to play 5 tier 3 players. It's to play 5 star players who happen to be out, or like Gonzalez is a perfect example.
Correct. I think if they really wanted to do things a bit more optimally with it, they would make it a like L15. It's big. Yeah, it's 100% when stars are back and don't have a sample size that makes sense.
Yeah. Like
Neymar was one of them. Right? Coates is a perfect example. So Coates, his L5 is 37 because
he had a red card.
He had a red card, and then he had like another game where he had a terrible game, and then they played Manchester City.
Well,
yeah, like I mean,
yeah, it's perfect.
So like, yeah,
like the red. you want nothing more than a red card from one of your players leading up to one of these,
Correct.
because not only do they get the crap score from the red card, but then they're suspended for the next one. So they get
Correct.
you get a DNP within your L5.
Yeah, which just like further exaggerates that bad game they have.
Right.
Yeah, so like, you're looking at like Coates. Coates had a red card, played Manchester City, and missed a game. So like realistically, like
no wonder he's that's why he's the second most popular player this week.
Correct. And next week he's likely still going to be there. Even if he has a big game this week, like he needs to have like 80 to 90 points for him to not be an under L50.
Yeah, the problem is that for this limited only, they're back at Man City.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean that would have happened. So it's an interesting situation. Yeah, like I mean, like looking at my team, I don't have great things to play in it myself. And my gal, like I have a lot. I have more super rares than probably all than about like what 20, 30 people on the platform. I would imagine. I don't have people to play.
Right.
And that's similar. Like so, like I have Whittick, and Whittick I think he had an air led to a goal, and he had like a 10-point game. So he ripped like a 10. So like he never mind. He just had like -25 decisive because I don't know why he was so bad against Utrecht, but he likely will be under 50 as well. But let's see. They play Heracles, so that could be an actual option for me to use.
There you go.
Goalie, I don't think will be an issue because like most goalies are under 50.
Right.
Most goalies are under 50, so like goalie's not going to be an issue. Actually, I wonder who Walwick plays because I have Tuba and Muhlenstein, and if they have a good matchup, both those guys are going to be under 50 most likely. Let's see who they play.
Well, they're both probably scoring like 17 this weekend. So
yeah, they play Heerenveen, that's pretty reasonable to play. So like I'll have people. I just don't know if I will be as good as I would want to be in that. But yeah, like next week, I definitely will take that relatively seriously.
Yeah. I mean, you should. It's as simple as that. Like I think the fun one is the last one, the rare underdogs, because the average is only 40. Like that's pretty low.
Yeah, but like who cares? Like they're giving out 20 cards.
That's a good point.
Like, I mean,
I forgot how low that one was.
Yeah, like not trying to be like cynical on it, but like who cares? Like
that is weird.
You're giving out 20 cards. I mean, again, that's not anything different. Like there's a good chance Coates is below 40. Because like you just said, he plays City. I think he still has that red card in there. It might actually, it's gone by then.
Well, the 5 will be the red card, the suspended game, 2 games against Man City. It doesn't even it doesn't matter what else he does.
Exactly. So like I don't know. I have plenty of rares that like I just don't care.
I got tons of rares that average less than 40.
Yeah, like, you got actually Joao Felix is probably above it right now, isn't he?
Oh, that guy can't come close to qualifying for these. He's hot.
Oh, his L560 left.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
I should see his all-arounds, man. His all-arounds is crushing. This guy is...
I couldn't tell you the last time I legitimately played him. I could not tell you.
I don't think I've ever done it. Literally not once.
He's been hot. He's been really good.
He's been really good.
Yeah, not even just from like a goal scoring standpoint.
No.
Like his AA's been pretty good. Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big Lars is... I mean, anytime Joao Felix is on the score sheet, I'm shocked. That's fair. Yeah, Big Lars is honestly Big Lars has been the best goalie in the entire Eredivisie this year. He's been really good, Josh. So like the way they play is just so favorable for him too, because he gets a lot of sweeper keepers, and he sees a lot of shots. Like he doesn't keep a clean sheet very often, but he just has such a good all-around game. Like his last 3 games, he has a 23, a 17, and a 31 all-around. So like his all-around game has been so good on Lars. Oh, now Laird's got to check out Joao for himself.
No, I know it. I know exactly what he's been doing. I'm just laughing at the fact that like your glasses almost fell off your face because your eyes popped out when you saw his.
Yeah, I mean, definitely can't expect that with Joao Felix. So, all right, we ready for the pump of the week, Laird?
Yeah. One last thing though, like and I don't expect it to happen, but if Joao Felix actually becomes like this, my entire gallery changes.
How much do you think? All right, so here's a legit question. I'm actually really curious about it, and like I have 2 of them, so like let's take this part out. I legitimately am curious if Joao Felix ripped like an L15 of like 62, what would happen? Not from a like I want to sell my card perspective, because like I'm not trying to look at like I legit. He is the biggest. Like, what would happen to him if he got super hot?
I think, like, I don't think that there are many players on the platform that would explode more than him. Like,
Correct.
when you think of guys like Doku, who, like, whenever he comes back from injury, everybody gets all excited, and then he gets hurt again. Or there was somebody else that I always put in this category, and I can't remember who else.
That's what I was alluding to, Josh. Is that's the exact player I was thinking. If he becomes Vinny, right? If he just like rips off, I'm not saying like an L40, but like let's say he rips an L15 that is Vinny, and he's like L15 63, L5 65. What does his card? What happens to his card?
We get another middle finger right there.
Yeah, but like how high do you think the middle finger is?
What's Vinny
like,
now? 2.5?
Like 1. So Vinny's at 4.25. So like let's call Vinny 4, and Joao Felix is at like 0.9.
I mean, it's got to be at least 2.5 or 3, right?
Yeah, that's what I think. But like, people.
I think the only thing that keeps him down is if he stays in Madrid, because everybody's like, this can't last under Simeone.
So I will say, I think that if he just like, I think he's someone that if he just like gets a transfer, his car's gonna shoot up.
Like if Mbappe goes to Real Madrid,
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Felix goes to PSG, he just skyrockets.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where Felix goes. Anywhere people are going to view as better, because like literally he can't get worse. So
yeah,
I'm just curious of like what would happen to him if he like ripped a stretch off that was like let's say he plays 90s every game, and he just rips off a 65. Yeah, like that's what I'm just very curious what would happen with a Joao Felix, because he's a conundrum that has the ability. He's still young, like he's still 22. Like you have 3 years left of U21.
I get so much time left.
Yeah, like you still have tons of time. Like, and he does. Like we're seeing, he has, and like, even if you look back through his previous graphs, like he has decent all around. When he plays and he's consistently getting 90 minutes, like he has 10 to 15 points all around, which is solid for a forward. So I'm curious if he could ever hit that type of run that we could see something like that.
I would love to see it, Sean. Would just love to see it.
Yeah, the question is, would you sell?
No, because we're winning all these rewards now.
Probably still no. Yeah, he's an interesting one. Yeah, speaking of Lars Understall, though, he's been so good this year. I think his price should be way higher than it is, because his age isn't terrible. He's only 31 and a half, and he's on a team that is likely, or at least possibly, going to get European action next year in the lower levels of the European stuff.
The good ones.
Which is good. Yeah, the good ones, exactly. And like, this guy's just smashing, and he's not even just ripping. He's not getting clean sheets, and he's just smashing. Like his L15 is 59. How many clean sheets does he have in his L15 at 59, Laird?
That's wild.
No, how many does he have?
Big Lars?
Yep.
4.
15. 1, 2, 3, 5. He has an L15 of 59, and he only has 5 decisives.
That's wild.
And 3, yeah, like that's it. Like in his L5 is, yeah, I mean, you're just talking like this guy, like he has 5 of 15 games, he has a decisive, and his L15 is 59. That's impressive.
Yeah.
From a goalie standpoint. Like I think he's one of the best goalies on the platform right now. It's like same thing I talked about back in the day with like Takawaka. Like he finally had a good game this week. Actually, he might have had another one earlier, but like Takawaka had a good game this week. So like when he has a good game, he gets like 74. Lars is the same thing. Like when Lars gets a decisive, you're getting like 80 points out of Lars. And like it's not that he's not going to get him. Like you see, like he has a 33% decisive rate in his last 15 games. Well, that means those 33% of games you're getting like 85 to 90. But I think Lars, his super is like 2.5. I think it should be like 4. I think it's, well, maybe not 4. It should be like 3.5. Then his rare should be like over 1, I think.
It's getting there.
Yeah, it's just
that's his price graph right there. He's climbing.
There's been no signs of decline with him.
No. But so Lars is actually not the pump of the week, though.
He's not. Might sound like it, but he wasn't.
No.
So pump of the week is Dino Hotic, who we've talked about before. So everything about him is solid, except for the fact he plays for Cercle Bruges. and people just don't buy it. But if you sort similar players, like in L15, it's like Lewandowski. Like that's his.
No,
It's no one. It's actually no one
it's
because
no
it's
one.
better. But like yeah, like you look at Dino Hotic, L5 of 73, L15 of 70, and he is like his comps are Mbappe,
That's
Johnny
if you take
Russell.
this is if you take the age filter off.
Yeah, so like all of these guys except for Mbappe are older than him. Like they're older than him. Like he is only 26 years old. And we're talking like his L15 is 70. Lewandowski's is 65. Why is this guy selling for under 0.4? Not to mention, why is his super rare like an ETH? I don't understand how people haven't bought his super rares. Like his super rares have been on the market and just no one has bought his super rares above like 1 ETH. This is a guy that's like a forward that takes every set, takes every penalty for his team. He has AA games. Like this is some of his AA games in the last like 10, 27 and a half, 27 and a half, 29, 18. Those are really freaking good for a forward. And like,
Really
yes,
good.
I mean, some of these games are against like Beer Shot and
Doesn't
like,
matter.
yeah, it doesn't matter. He plays these teams. Like yes, like he put up against some of the better teams, right? Like Anderlecht, he had 46 because he didn't score. So like, okay, understandable. Against RSG, he had 60. He had decisive. Okay, cool. Those are like the only teams that are worrisome. Like Genk, he had 80 against Genk. Genk is one of the better teams in the league. Mechelen, he had 100. He had 100 against Mechelen. That's a top 8 team against Mechelen. Bruges, he had 53. He didn't get decisive. That's one of your best teams in the league. So like, I just don't understand where we talk about people struggling to find super rares, especially forwards, and people struggling to find good options as super forwards. This is a guy that's proven it over the whole season. I know beforehand, like obviously he had a rough patch before this string. He was rotated in and out. It happens, like it's going to happen. I'm not saying he's the best player of all time, but like this is a guy that's his L40 is 51 and it's going up. And like if you look back, if you click on all on his game log before that rough patch that he had decent logs before that. Like he's a forward that's like, yes, was that as good as now? No. But like if you're getting a guy that has a 15-point all around at forward, which if you look, it's pretty evident he does have a chance to get 10 to 15 points as an all around.
For sure.
A guy that takes every single sets for his team, a guy that takes every single penalty kick for his team, they're going to get decisives on the year. Like, I think this year he has like 20 decisives. Or no, he had 15 decisives, I think. He had 6 goals and 9 assists or 6 goals and 8 assists. So, like, he's going to do that. If he plays like this guy, even if he's on a not as good of a team, he's going to have, let's say, 10 decisives on the year, right? And that means 33% of the games are getting 75 to 80 points. That's really good for a 26-year-old forward. That's just really strong. So I just don't understand why his super rare is as cheap as it is.
He's like super popular in terms, like when we do those graphics of like summarizing the week, like he's always like one of the more popular. He's always like the most popular captain. But like there's so many cards of his out, and yet it just doesn't make sense that his price is like as low. Like it's not like a supply issue. Like it's a demand that like people aren't demanding to pay more than 0.36 for 80 points.
Yeah. So
I say that, and I don't have one.
HG, yeah. The rares, whatever, I guess, because like rares, rares you can replace. Super rares are difficult. Finding a super rare that scores like this, like it just doesn't exist. Like you're paying like a lot of money for a super rare that does what he does. In terms of the question about when is the time to buy for the European season, I think now might be the time to buy. Based on what I saw over the last year, the time to buy is towards the end of the season, not in the off season. It's like the last month or two of the season, which also is beneficial for you because you get like maybe let's say a month or two out of equity out of it. In terms of like when is he going to leave? He's under contract through next year. So you have another year out of him theoretically. But like realistically speaking, I don't like talking from that perspective because it's anyone's possible to leave.
Yeah.
Almost everyone's possible to leave. So I don't like to look at things unless you're talking about like elite level champ Europe guys like Brozovic, for example. Like Brozovic was talked about moving from Inter, but like the options were like Barcelona. So like who cares? So like
Well, the
anyone
benefits.
else, realistically speaking, there's a risk of ruin in a card. So like we talk about Theo Bongonda. If he transfers to, let's say, West Ham, he's dead. Not dead, but like it's not good. Like you're not happy about that. Even if he starts, like it's just not. It's
Yeah.
not great. But yeah, from what I saw with MLS, like we look at the MLS graphs for last year, I think the best time to buy any MLS player was like August, which was like 2/3 of the way through their season. And then like right now, things are skyrocketing. And I think things will probably come down a bit when new cards come out, but then they're going to go back up again.
Yeah.
So I think generally speaking, you're going to want to buy cards for whatever you're trying to buy. If you have so that's the whole resources problem, right? Like, do you really want to allocate your resources to Europe right now? No, that's not where you want to allocate. But if you want to properly allocate and spend the best way you can for that region, this is probably the next time you can, or
I
the
think
best
that,
time you do it.
yeah, I think where we see dips, and I think there's like a bit of a Euro one right now, is when other leagues are starting up and then when other leagues' new cards come out. So like MLS and K League and J League, like we're just starting up now. And so people are selling Euro cards to buy those.
Correct.
And then when we have this influx of new cards of auctions with the 2022 cards, I think we'll see it again, or maybe it keeps it low until then, which based on the time frame is, I'm guessing April to May. I
Yeah.
think we said the new MLS cards came out in May last year and they were about a month behind. So Aprilish this year. So yeah, I think it's basically it's less timing it on your own league. Like I think that the end of season dips are like for European leagues is less about the actual end of the European season as it is the beginning of the others. Although I guess it's the same principle. But the one thing I wanted to say about Hodic is that we the concern with a lot of guys like in Belgium and the Netherlands is like, oh, they're going to go to like a much bigger team and then they'll just like your Bongondo
Yeah.
example.
Anyone.
But like he doesn't play for an elite team in his own league now. So like he could leave and just go to, he's probably not going to Bruges, the other Bruges. But like if he went there, that's fine. Like
Correct.
he can still upgrade in his own league.
It's like the Joey Vierman factor, right? Like Joey Vierman
Yes.
went from playing for Heerenveen to playing for PSV. Like
Yeah.
if you can take that type of step, could be huge. Like all of a sudden, let's get hypothetical here, right? Like hypothetically speaking, Dino Hotic next year ends up on Club Bruges instead of Cercle Bruges. Because like let's say De Ketelaere and Lang are gone and they want Dino Hotic to basically become like Noah Lang.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen.
Yes,
I'm not
please.
saying it will. It's not been rumored or anything, so like I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but like he's not someone. The guys you really worry about are the people that are like elite level in their league and
Like
that on an elite
Lang and De Ketelaere.
yeah, like De Ketelaere or Lang, like their step up is to a different league that is more difficult, where they're likely not going to be on a great team. So that's a concern. But yeah, HG, that is part of the issue with Hotic is that they're probably not going to make the top 8, which means that you only get 5 more games out of Hotic right now. So that is a downfall with him right now. And that's why getting cards now is a benefit. But like another thing people don't understand, I think people struggle to deal with when grasping like when to buy cards and whatnot. Every day, more people are on the platform. So like every day, the demand is higher for cards, but the supply is not changing. So like last year when we saw, and I think it's going to be different with limiteds because obviously there's a lot more limiteds to be out there. But like realistically speaking, what did we have last year at this time in terms of how many users had a rare card? Because I think what we're going to see is like last year around this time was probably 20,000, let's say. I don't know what it is. We'll see in a second. And now you're looking at 100,000. So a year ago today, 7,000 people had a card and only 4,000 people had 5 cards. So like let's compare that to today, right? So let's go over today. We're at 100,000, 66,000 have rares. 66,000 people are playing rares.
No,
I
no, no.
don't think
That's
we're
just
gonna.
5 cards or more. That's not. They could. It could be 5 limiteds.
Oh, okay, it could be 5 limits. Anyway, we'll pretend it's rares for the discussion purposes. But like, we're not going to see this growth next year. It's not going to go. We're not going to like, what was that, like 15x? We're not going to like 15x again.
Yeah.
If we do, we're all sitting freaking pretty. Because like if that happens, like
If that happens, yeah,
everyone's making good money that's listening to this podcast today. So let's say that like a year from today, we're at like 300,000 people that have cards. There are not many rares going around for those 3,000 people to have. So you're talking like, I think we're just going to constantly see cards start going up, and like they might go down again, but like the next time they go up might not come back down all the way. And you're just going to see, and that's why every card people talk about as a joke, like, oh, you just bought a card, it's going to go up. It's possible because the limit is very small. Like you only are going to have 100 of each card per season on these players. So like when there's 300,000 people on the platform and people want to buy, let's say, Dino Hotic, there's only going to be like 300 Dino Hotic cards. And if 250 people don't want to sell them, you got like 300,000 people fighting for 50 cards.
Yeah.
That is just not many cards out there.
Yeah, I think what we'll see, even if cards increase, the downside will not match the downside now.
Correct.
Just
also, Red Panda, yeah, in the future, that's how they're going to. That's why the platform is really good, because the scalability of it is simple. Whenever they hit a certain number, they're going to add a new scarcity. So like the next scarcity is going to be like 1 of 10,000. But it's not going to change the rare level, the super rare level, and the unique level. They're all going to remain the same. Similar, like the limited is eventually going to be like that too. So realistically speaking, in the future, we're going to see a situation where, in theory, I'm going to give the in theory because Sorare screws this up frequently, but like people should be incentivized to progress. If people are incentivized to progress, everyone playing in the limited scarcity is going to want to play in the rare scarcity. Everyone playing in the rare scarcity is going to want to play in the super rare scarcity. So like eventually when we have 10,000 people in a 10,000 scarcity, those people are going to want to play limited and going to want to play rares.
Yeah.
There's only going to be so many of those cards that are going to be out there and available that those prices are going to be high because of that. If Sorare incentivizes progression, which they should, and the rewards make sense that people actually want to try to win cards that, in theory, like in the future, like playing the unique division, you should be able to win like $100,000 cards every week. I'm like, in theory, that's how it should happen. Whether or not that happens, who the hell knows?
That's some
like right now, like Haaland and Mbappe are worth like $100,000. Their super rares are worth like 100K. If in the future, like those should be worth like 250K, and like a Wurt super rare should be worth like 100 type of thing.
Yeah, that anybody listening here, that's like the world that we want.
Yeah, that's where we want to be. Like that's the end goal in 3 to 5 years. Is like that's what is happening to the platform. Like that's why I know everyone has talked about it. If Sorare is done correctly and everything works well, we are all so early in the grand scheme of things. And that like you're gonna multiply what you have put in by a significant amount. It's a big risk though.
It's a big yeah, certainly the risk.
Yeah, and like if that happens, Andrew Laird is sitting on a beach, retired.
I like the beach. I'll say that. This isn't my retirement plan, but it would be nice if it turned into one.
That's not true. This is 100% your retirement plan. You cannot say it's not. Sorare is your retirement plan.
My Sorare cards are not.
No, your Sorare cards are not. My Sorare cards are.
Yeah.
Your Sorare cards are not your retirement, but Sorare is your retirement plan.
It's a retirement idea. I'll put it.
Well, it's realistically speaking, like, and when we say when I say retirement plan, I mean retirement at an earlier age plan. Like, you probably still have a long-term retirement plan of, let's say, like 55 or 60, like be retired. But I'm talking about like your retirement plan at like how old are you now? You're probably like 40. Yeah, so like your retirement plan at 43 is Sorare.
I think 43 is a little aggressive.
It is, but you know it's also possible.
We'll have to do a retirement show one day.
Wouldn't that be great if like in 5 years from now we just are like sitting on a beach and like sipping mimosas, retired, having a conversation?
Yeah, that's definitely something that everybody needs to see live on YouTube. But
we'll make that a goal, guys, that if I'm retired and Laird is retired in the next 5 years, and we will live record a video of us at like some local or some beach vacation spot, sipping drinks, and we'll have a show by the pool.
Yeah, I think the plan was actually be on somebody's yacht, but we can talk.
Well, I don't know if I have the ability to have a yacht. HG is probably the only one that could have a yacht.
All right, we've gone long enough today. We've officially fallen off the rails here talking about Dino Hotic. But thank you to everybody who joined us live in the chat. It's always very exciting to see everybody who participates. So thank you for doing that. If you guys wouldn't mind just hitting the like button on the video. For those of you who are catching up, you can like it as well. So please feel free to do that. And if you're listening to the audio version, if you could please rate and review it wherever you listen. Sean and I will be back next Friday. We actually have a new idea that I don't know if we'll be talking about the special weeklies, but we have another idea that I think you guys will really appreciate. It's kind of a new series. So I'll just tease that a little bit. And then Andy and I will be back early next week for the Sorare Andrews podcast. So just subscribe to the YouTube channel so you're notified whenever the new videos are going up. So thank you to everybody for that. Sean, thanks, and good luck this game week.